Then I remembered what Atakan had said. I was living an event like a legend I had only heard from the elders. I thought it was a dream, but I was sure my father had come in and told me to go back to sleep. I said, "Dad, I don't feel well. Let's go to whoever we need to go to." He took me to the village Hodja. The man's house was like a single-story hut. My dad knocked on the door, and the Hodja greeted him. Before my dad could say, "We have a problem," the Hodja said, "What is he doing here?" My dad said, "He's my son." The Hodja said, "Take him away. I don't want him here." I said, "Hodja, this is the first time I've met you." The Hodja didn't listen and just said, "Take him away, quickly." He basically threw us out. My dad was pale. He said, "He's a very good man. I don't know why he did that." I was completely a psychological wreck. I said, "Dad, I'm fed up," and I emptied my heart out, crying. My dad took me home, where my grandparents were sitting. Everyone was looking at me. I asked, "What's wrong? Why are you looking at me?" My grandfather said, "Tell us what happened." He had talked to the Hodja. I don't know what the Hodja told him. My grandfather never said. He told me to tell him everything. My grandfather said, "We are not alone in this world." He kept giving me advice. I felt a hatred towards him at that moment. "Grandpa, I don't need your advice," I said. I had never disrespected my grandfather before, but I just said it. He fell silent. My dad was looking at me, but he usually wouldn't forgive my disrespect. He was looking at me with pity. "Dad, why are you looking at me like that?" He didn't answer. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "What's wrong with me?" Everyone was silent. "Please tell me," I begged. My dad said, "We are going to take you to someone who will help you." "Who, Dad?" I asked. He said a name. I said, "I'm not going." I didn't know the man, but I felt a hatred for him. "I'm not going, Dad," I said. My dad just said, "Okay." The next day, my grandfather, my father and I got in the car. This man lived in another village an hour and a half away. We arrived at the village, which had maybe 9 to 10 houses made of adobe. The streets were empty. My dad parked the car in front of one of the houses. My grandfather led the way, with my dad and me behind him. My grandfather knocked on the door, and a young woman opened it. An old man was sitting inside, holding a long rosary. We went in. The young woman offered us to sit. There were no couches, only cushions on the floor. We sat down. The Hodja was still reciting prayers. My grandfather greeted him, and after about 10 seconds, the Hodja responded. No one spoke. The Hodja suddenly turned to me and, in a commanding tone, said, "Come here." My dad signaled for me to get up. I slowly walked over and sat down in front of the Hodja. "Look," he said. He stared at me for about 10 seconds, saying things in a language that wasn't Turkish. He just kept looking and muttering things. He called the woman, whom I guessed was his daughter-in-law, and told her something. She brought a knife, a piece of paper, a pen, a bowl of water, and a needle. The man wrote something on a long, thin piece of paper, folded it, and cut it into 10 pieces with scissors. He put them in the water. He was still muttering. He looked at the water, and his eyes widened. He looked at me, picked up the needle, and said, "Hold out your arm." I did. He made 5 small holes in my arm. A pinhead-sized drop of blood flowed from each, and he let it drip into the water. He mixed the water with his finger. Then he told me to get out. I went outside. About 5 minutes later, my grandfather and father came out, their faces long. We got in the car without speaking. In the car, my grandfather said, "Son, where did you get involved in these plagues?" "What plagues?" I asked. Son, he said, you killed the child of someone from the Jinn tribe. What child? Grandpa, what are you talking about? I said. He showed me the knife the Hodja had given him. This is what can be done against them. Don't ever let go of this, son. We will never leave you alone. We will always be with you, he said. This is the only thing the Hodja could do. I didn't understand what was happening, and I had reached a point of whatever happens mode. We were at my grandparents' house again. It was evening, and we were eating dinner in silence. The door knocked near bedtime. I'll never forget. There were 5 villagers, and the one in the back was the Hodja who had thrown us out of his house. They said something to my grandfather. I only heard my grandfather say, "This is my house." Then he came to me and said, "Son, you and your family go home. You'll be more comfortable there." I just said, "Okay." If even my grandfather was afraid of me and was throwing me out of his house, what could I do? I felt nothing, and I didn't even know what I was. In the middle of the night, my dad, my mom, and I got in the car and drove to our own house. We sat in the living room. My mom and dad didn't leave me alone that night. I just wanted them not to fall asleep, not for a single second. But they were human, and we all fell asleep until the clock showed 2:30 a.m. again. I had the same nightmare. The sky was red. There was no sun. I was in my university room again. I turned around again, but this time something was different. I saw Atakan's face. How can I describe it? His eyes were bright blue. His teeth were black. His hair was long. He looked at me and said 2 sentences I will never forget. Il huvel, illa bin zitr. I couldn't speak. I could only look at his blue eyes, long hair, and blackened teeth. I woke up to my father's voice. My mum and dad were shouting over me. I sat up and asked, "What's going on?" They said, "You've been shouting in Arabic for 2 hours." I said, "Dad, I had the same nightmare again." Someone said 2 sentences to me. He asked, "Where is the knife?" "It's in the car, Dad," I said. "You 2 sit here, I'll go get it," he said. "Never leave it again." I sat with my mum, waiting for my dad. 10 minutes went by, and he still hadn't come back with the knife. I said, "Mum, let's go down together. Whatever happens, happens." My mum said, "Wait a little longer, son. If he doesn't come, we'll call the police." "Police?" I said. "Are you crazy? We're just going downstairs." I was at a point where I wanted to face them, to end these nightmares and fears, to make them leave me alone. We went downstairs. My dad was sitting in the car with a cigarette, my mum knocking on the window. He was just sitting there, not even looking at her. Then he turned his head and looked at her from behind the window and started crying. He had locked the doors. My mum was shouting, "Open the door." He was just crying. After 5 minutes, he opened the doors. I said, "Dad, please, why are you crying?" "I'm fed up." He said, "Son, an old woman stopped me at the apartment door and asked for water." "What water, Dad?" I asked. His mouth was trembling as he told the story, and he was crying. "I don't know, son." "Dad," I said, "it's past 3 a.m. Who would ask for water at the apartment door at this hour?" He said he told the woman to wait while he got it, and when he turned his back on her, she shouted, "My son is your son." And when he turned back, she was gone. He ran to the car, grabbed the knife, and locked the doors, terrified. We went back upstairs and stayed up until morning. I fell asleep early, and when I woke up, it was noon. I hadn't had a dream. The 3 of us were sitting there when my dad's phone rang. It was our landlord from the university city. He said he was knocking on the door, but no one was answering, and he heard multiple voices inside. My dad said, "My son is right here with me. I don't know what his friend is doing." The landlord said he was going to call a locksmith. A lot of my things were still in that apartment. I told my dad I didn't want to study in that city anymore, that I wanted to retake the exam or transfer somewhere else. He said, "Okay, son," and didn't object. We went to get my stuff. We arrived at the house, and no one was there. My key didn't work. Atakan, or the landlord, had changed the lock. My dad called the landlord, who wanted to meet us. We met at a place called Asia Tea Garden. The man looked scared and surprised. He didn't sit down. "Son," he said, "what did you do in that apartment?" I said, "I didn't do anything, sir." He said when they found my friend, he was laughing and talking to himself. When he saw the landlord and the locksmith, he started cursing and insulting them. The landlord called the police, and Atakan was taken for observation to see if he was mentally stable. The landlord gave us the key and said we could take our stuff and go. "Dad," I said, "before we pack up and leave, I want to see Atakan." He asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said. So we went to where he was being held. We went back upstairs and stayed up until morning. I fell asleep early, and when I woke up, it was noon. I hadn't had a dream. The three of us were sitting there when my dad's phone rang. It was our landlord from the university city. He said he was knocking on the door, but no one was answering, and he heard multiple voices inside. My dad said, "My son is right here with me. I don't know what his friend is doing." The landlord said he was going to call a locksmith. A lot of my things were still in that apartment. I told my dad I didn't want to study in that city anymore, that I wanted to retake the exam or transfer somewhere else. He said, "Okay, son," and didn't object. We went to get my stuff. We arrived at the house, and no one was there. My key didn't work. Atakan, or the landlord, had changed the lock. My dad called the landlord, who wanted to meet us. We met at a place called Asia Tea Garden. The man looked scared and surprised. He didn't sit down. "Son," he said, "what did you do in that apartment?" I said, "I didn't do anything, sir." He said when they found my friend, he was laughing and talking to himself. When he saw the landlord and the locksmith, he started cursing and insulting them. The landlord called the police, and Atakan was taken for observation to see if he was mentally stable. The landlord gave us the key and said we could take our stuff and go. "Dad," I said, "before we pack up and leave, I want to see Atakan." He asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said. So we went to where he was being held. My dad asked the nurse where Atakan's room was. She told us, and we went in. He was in bed with an IV drip. Atakan's hair was messy and his beard was long, like Robinson Crusoe. When he saw me, he started to cry. He whispered, "Let's talk alone." I asked my dad to wait outside for a bit. He left. We were alone. I said, "Man, I regret the day I met you. What have you gotten me into?" He said, "I don't have much time. They are coming for me. Go home, take the necklace from under my bed, remove my picture, burn it, and put your own picture inside. There will also be a handwritten book that says K*S with a symbol on it. Take it, open the second to last page, write the shapes on a piece of paper, and then burn them all at the hour you have the nightmares. As you burn each paper, read the words from the book 10 times. The guy had literally pulled me into a plague. I asked him, "If I do what you say, will the nightmares really stop? What do these things you're telling me to do mean?" He said, "If you want them to go, do it. I'm sorry for everything I've put you through and for taking on your sin." He was pathetic I went to his doctor, who said they suspected schizophrenia, but he also said, and I'll never forget this, if you want to take him to a Hodja, I'll respect that. I thought if a doctor with so many years of medical school was saying that, there must be something going on. Dad, I said, let's go get our stuff. We went back to the house. The landlord had given the key to my dad at the tea garden, and we were supposed to leave it there when we were done. We went in. We first packed up my stuff. Then I went to Atakan's room. Dad, I said, I have some things in Atakan's room too. I'll get them, and then we can leave. He said, okay, son. I went into the room alone. There was a rectangular mirror that he had turned face down. I didn't understand why. I turned the mirror face up, and there was something written on it in Arabic. I turned it back down the way it was. I bent down and saw the book at the very back under the bed. It looked very old. The pages were slightly stuck together with some kind of glue, and they were tied with a string. It was yellowish and had the shape and name he had told me about. It was larger than a normal book. I found the necklace inside the book, opened it, and saw his picture was still there. I took it out and burned it with a lighter. Then I put the necklace in my pocket. As I was leaving with the book in my hand, I saw that the mirror was turned facing me again. I was getting used to it now. I didn't look at it and just said to myself that I must have forgotten to turn it back. I left the room immediately. Dad, I said, I'm ready. Let's go. There were 2 suitcases already, and my dad took both. I said, give me one, Dad, but he said, let's just go quickly. We loaded the suitcases into the car. 5 minutes later, the landlord came. We gave him the key and started our journey back home. My dad's situation was what it was. We didn't have a Ferrari. We had a Lada Samara. We threw the suitcases in the back seat. I sat in the front with the book in my hand and the necklace in my pocket. My dad was driving and asked, "What book is that, son?" I tried to change the subject, telling him to open the windows. I had no answer because it was obvious it wasn't a school book. It was an old, shabby, yellow book. I threw the book in the back with the suitcases and brought up other topics so my dad would forget his question. And he did. Then he said, "Son, we didn't think it was appropriate to tell you, but someone has been very jealous of you and has put a spell on you with the help of various jinn." He said it was a serious spell. He asked if I remembered the old Hodja we went to see. "Yes, Dad," I said. "He will see you one more time, son." I said, "Okay, Dad. If he can get rid of this, I'm willing to meet with him." He said the knife he had given me had spiritually strengthened me. He asked if I remembered cursing the Hodja when we first met. I was shocked. "What cursing, Dad?" I said. I just sat there with my head down. He said, "Son, while the Hodja was reciting his prayers in Arabic, you were cursing him in Arabic. But you're better now. You're not talking in your sleep. I was the same, but the book and the fact that I was going to solve this gave me a glimmer of hope. I felt better when my dad said these things, as if it was all a bad dream. The road seemed shorter as we talked. We finally got home. My mum opened the door, her face sullen with a mix of fear and surprise. She tried to smile. We went inside. "Are you hungry?" she asked. We had soup on the way, so we didn't eat at home. We didn't turn on the TV, just sat there. My mum looked like she was thinking about something. "What's wrong, Mum?" I asked. "Nothing, son," she said, but I knew something had definitely happened while we were gone. "Mum, if you keep hiding things from me, my mental state will get worse. Tell me what happened," I said. She looked at my dad, then said, "Son, Some strange things happened today. I was lying down, and I heard a noise from the kitchen. I went to look, and all the plates were on the floor. All 4 burners on the stove were on full blast, but the knobs were in the off position. I saw it with my own eyes. I opened the faucet and poured water on the fire. A smoke came out that I had never seen before. She said she recited some prayers and came back into the living room. This had happened about an hour before we got home, so she was still shaken. I was cursing to myself, "What do you want from my family? Leave them alone." I said, "Dad, tomorrow, first thing in the morning, let's go to the Hodges village and talk to him." "Okay, son, don't worry," he said. Time passed, and it was time for bed again. We were in the living room. I wasn't sleeping in my room anymore because of all this. My mum and dad said, "Son, go to sleep for a bit. We'll be here." I fell asleep with that comfort. I woke up with a greater weight on me than usual. I was in my university room. I ran to the window. The air was red, like fire. The streets were empty. My room was on fire. I turned around, and no one was there. Atakan's voice came from his room at the end of the hallway. "Come help me, I'm burning." I ran down the dark corridor. It seemed kilometers long. I was running to get to the light switch and end this darkness, to save Atakan. As I ran, they laughed. As I ran, the flames grew. I got to the toilet, and Atakan's room was on my left, but there was no door, just a wall. I turned to the other side, and there was another wall. All I had in front of me was the toilet, and behind me was a dark hallway. I went into the toilet, closed the door, and sat there crying. 5 pairs of eyes were looking at me from the window. Some were a deep blue, some were like a pit of fire. Their faces were all the same. Atakan. Their hair was long, sparse, oily, and their teeth were pitch black. I could tell they were different entities by their eyes. They all looked at me with hatred, but their eyes gave away their personalities. Then I heard my mum and dad's voices, and I woke up. They were at my bedside again. "Son," my dad said, "drink some water." He gave me water. "Dad," I said, "we have to get ready and go to the Hodges village immediately." My dad calmed me down. We waited until morning, and then we left with the first light. I told my mum to go to the neighbor's house. I didn't want her to be alone at home. We got in the car without talking much. I had taken my knife with me and never let go of it. We arrived at the village, and the same woman opened the door. "My father-in-law is out chopping wood. He'll be back," she said. My dad and I sat down. I was looking at the house. There were no paintings or mirrors. As I was looking around, the Hodja finally came back. We stood up and greeted him. He was an imposing man, with a long beard and eyebrows. "Hodja, I'm sorry," I said. "What for, my son?" he asked. "For the insults I made to you last time." He laughed and said, "You didn't say them to me, so there's nothing to forgive. Come, sit in front of me." I sat down. I was thinking about whether I should mention the book and the necklace, but I decided not to. "Son," he said, "you haven't let go of your knife, have you?" "No, Hodja," I said. "Look, I'll be frank with you," he said. "I don't know if your father's family told you, but a jealous person tried to put a spell on you with the help of some jinn, but they couldn't. However, you, knowingly or unknowingly, killed one of their children. They won't leave you alone. They will either take you or you will take them." I said, "Hodja, what child did I kill? I've never even harmed an ant." He said, "Then you did it unknowingly. Did you ever pour water on embers or suddenly put out a fire?" "No," I said. Then I remembered and said, Hoja, I blew out some candles with my friend in the dark in my room. Then you harmed them, son, he said. Don't let go of your knife. They are a large tribe. He wrote something on a piece of paper and told me to wear it around my neck. He said it would keep them away for a while. He also warned me not to use incense, not to look in mirrors for a long time, and not to keep too many paintings in my room.